Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Wednesday, the 29th of September. With Robert Murray McShane, we're reading the first book of Kings, beginning at chapter 1 today. In it, David, the king of Israel, is in his old age. His son, Adonijah, the oldest, decides he will be king, and he has himself proclaimed king by a number of people, including the commander of David's army and some of the priests, and almost assumes that it will be him because he's the eldest. But David had said that Solomon would be king. And so the prophet Nathan goes to Bathsheba and says, this is what's going on, you need to act. And so in verse 17 we're told she goes into king and says, my lord, you yourself swore to me, your servant, by the Lord your God, Solomon your son shall be king after me, and he will sit on my throne. But now Adonijah has become king, and you, my lord, the king, do not know about it. So she prompts him to act. And then straight after that, Nathan comes in and says the same thing. And at that point, King David acts decisively and gets people to go and pronounce Solomon king, have him sit on his throne, and he moves the situation forward. And as I read that, I thought, here is David, this great king, this great leader, this man after God's own heart. And yet once again, his indecisiveness and his lack of action complicates the picture and creates all sorts of problems. Had he just acted diligently and properly and made the necessary pronouncements in the proper time, this would have been avoided. But he didn't. And for me, that's a bit of an encouragement that when we get things wrong, or certainly when I get things wrong, which I do all too often, I'm not alone in that. And very often our human frailty will impact on our lives and mess things up and complicate issues. But the people of God have experienced this throughout history. None of us is perfect. And so we live with our imperfections. And we're not condemned because of it. God still loves us. David was still a man after God's own heart. And so God still loves us despite our imperfections and our failures. And the second thing that struck me was that the people around about David had to galvanize him, had to help him, had to prompt him to act. And we need to take courage when we see people reticent or not doing things or holding back, to be prepared to go and encourage people to do what they need to do the right thing. So be encouraged to live with your failure and know God's love despite it, and be compassionate of other people's failure, and be prepared to step in and help them when necessary, with all wisdom and love. In this way, God's kingdom will be extended. Be blessed.